Many of us can think back on teachers and coaches that had a lasting impact on our lives. And there's one right here in our community that's still known and appreciated for the impact he's had on his family and former players from over the years. Our very own Grace Cacciaturian introduces us to Coach and his daughter, Jody.
Meet David Cass-Stevens.
Originally grew up at Neoga, went to Neoga High, Eastern Illinois University. Then my first teaching job was up at Gilman, which is now Iroquois West. And then I went to Georgetown, and then from Georgetown here to Urbana. I moved to Urbana in 1963.
To many, he's known as Coach.
I taught PE and the fall of '63 as a sophomore football coach, sophomore basketball coach, and assistant track coach. And then when they asked me to become the head basketball coach, I dropped track and just concentrated in. I stayed with football, so I was football and basketball coach.
Sports was a huge part of Coach's life. It naturally dribbled its way into the whole Cass-Stevens household.
Always had sports in our house. It was either on TV or being talked about at the dinner table. We were at sports. On the weekends, we knew that's where our family would be. We often had boys at our kitchen table. They would come over and Dad would help them with their homework to make sure they made the grade, and Mom would feed them. And so we would sit there with our honorary brothers, all doing our homework. So it was just kind of our way of life.
An open door to all his athletes, Coach cared about them far past the court, field, or track, and knew what mattered most.
To see the kids develop and become, we thought, much better citizens. I had 13 kids play Division I basketball. I had 2 play here at Illinois, and 1 played down at Baylor, and 1 played at Kansas.
Coach's impact has carried on far past his players' 4 years.
I think they also left knowing that my dad and the other coaches truly cared for them and cared about what happened to them as they grew into young men, and that they did the best for them that they could, when they were on their teams.
His amazing career was built on the steady support of his family.
My wife and I was married in 1955, and we were blessed with 3 daughters. And I always got outvoted, 4-1.
Although outvoted, his influence ran deep.
I just think watching his dedication to his craft kind of influenced me to do the same thing. I followed in his footsteps and became a teacher. I also coached the cheerleading team for 10 years at Urbana High School, following in his footsteps there as well. I was hired right out of the university in Urbana and taught for 34 years in the Urbana schools. So yeah, my entire life has been here.
The Cass-Stevens family has had a multi-generational impact on Urbana schools, with hopes it will just be a ripple effect.
From my experience with a lot of my students, many of them didn't have a lot of positive adult role models. And I think, and the same is true, I think, for some of Dad's athletes at the time. And I think it's important for them to see that there are adults out there who are in their corner and who are rooting for them and supporting them and helping them along the way. I also think it helps them then turn around as adults and hopefully do the same thing for others.
Much credit for all their efforts as teachers and coaches goes back to the crew around the kitchen table.
So I was blessed with a good family, great wife. Coach's wife she has to be very, very forgiving, understanding. I'd come home from games even if we won, I'd have to do all of the totaling up of the fouls and rebounds and all that kind of stuff. And then if we lost, I was never hungry. We get home around 10:30, 11 o'clock. I was still up at 3 or so. Just wasn't size keyed up from the games. So behind every good coach, there's got to be a good wife. And I was very, very fortunate.
And all those aspiring or current athletes, Coach has a little advice for you.
You might be the best athlete in the world, but if you don't have the grades, you're done. So study hard, enjoy your time, get involved in more things, a lot of things.
Well, their legacy continues throughout Urbana's schools, a very inspiring look into just how much teachers and coaches care about their students. And if you know a teacher or coach that could use a little spotlight, send their story our way to Grace Cacciaturian. There's her email. Jot that down, and she would love to feature them here on an upcoming show.